Evidence. Tonight, see what truly exists inside the world of the paranormal. Join the discussion and review some of the best paranormal evidence captures from a wide variety of experienced and up-and-coming investigators. See and hear what they capture, where they captured it, and how they captured it. Right now on Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. Live.
Good evening and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. I'm Tony Rathman.
I'm Chris Allgood.
I am Audra Keeler.
I am Lourdes Gonzalez.
And I am going to say my name even slower than the other four people. That's it. That's all I got.
Am.
You changed your name to I?
I.
It worked with the phone. I figured I might have some success.
Too funny.
Good one.
Way too funny. Well, we are still waiting for our guest to come online, but tonight's guest is Julie Griffin, and she is a paranormal investigator. She wrote a book, and let me bring up that image. She wrote a book called Ghostly Photographs. And one of her main objectives when investigating locations is to take photographs and to catch apparitions. The book has lots of photos in it, but Julie is going to come on tonight, and not only are we going to get to see photographs in this book, but she's going to be able to give us explanations as to where they were, what she was doing when she caught it. So really looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah,
it should be exciting. And she has a knack of capturing some great stuff, and it ranges from ghostly photographs to strange lights, strange mists. UFOs even are included in a couple of the photographs that she shared tonight. So really looking forward to having her on. She's just sent me a message. She's still trying. Not sure what the complication is. It should just be a link to click. But while she's coming in, what else can we stall with until she gets here?
I was going to say, for those of you watching, this is how you stall a podcast.
Hey, you know what? How about this? How about we're on the week of Thanksgiving, and it's been, for a lot of people, for everybody's had some level of difficulty or loss in the last year or so. It's been challenging for everybody. Take a moment and look at, especially if you're into the paranormal, the people, the places, the moments, the locations, the things that have come into your life that are part of what you do now, that you can look back for and say, you know what, if it wasn't for me taking steps onto this path, I wouldn't have those things. You know, I look at those things, and I'm looking at four people, really five if Miss Cherie was here, that I'm extremely grateful. I get to work with you guys every week. We were fortunate enough, after having been guests, to have made an impact enough that we were invited onto a show that was already fantastic. And then throughout the pandemic time, I can tell you that my paranormal pursuits, spending every Monday night with you guys, and then even doing direct radio sittings at home, that was a coping mechanism. It was somewhere I found solace and happiness. And so for me, that's what I'm going to look back on this week and say, this is something I'm extremely grateful to have and thankful for sure. And then, things to come too. My book will be out this year. And so
Yay!
A lot of exciting.
That's awesome.
A lot of exciting stuff.
So why don't you promote that? I know it's not out yet, and I know that it'll probably be 2022, but we're not far from it.
No.
Why don't you tell people about what you did, what you wrote, and what's coming?
Well, it's one of two. I'm sorry into the second book now. It's called Paranormally Speak, Knowingly Talking to the Unknown. It just gives my foray into the paranormal. It gives a couple of background things from when I was younger that kind of led to this, which is something that you always ask on the interviews, which for anybody is a very important or integral part of their path into the paranormal. And then it segues into my focus into ITC and spirit communication, where the next book will get a little bit more philosophical and technical in the next one. I was also very fortunate to have had the foreword written by Mr. Tom, who is one of the best people in ITC. So that was awesome. The About the Author was written by Dr. Annabella Cordoza, who's ITC royalty from over in Europe. And then one of the greats, which actually ties into tonight's guest, in not only in spirit communication with audio, with direct radio, but also with photographs, which is Mr. Mark Macy from out of Colorado. He wrote a contributing section also for aspiring ITC operators that he gave me for the book too, as well as tons of brilliant other people: Austin Maynard, Steve Katie Hulte, Tim Woolworth. It goes on. Joshua Shawn. There's so many great people. So it'll get a little bit into spirit communication stuff, because a little bit of how I got into it, and some of it's advice stuff too. Some of it's about working with teams, working with other people, how to handle yourself on social media, your social media presence, and how that's important with how you portray it. Because everything's an aspect of behavior and business, what we do, right? It's not just, you're working with people, even when you're doing stuff in the field. So hopefully it's an enjoyable and informative read. It was fun to do.
All right. Well, it looks like Julie was able to join us, so let's bring her
Excellent.
in.
Yay.
Yeah.
Julie.
Hey, Julie.
Hi.
Hello. I tell you, sometimes the computer just is no help at all, and Tony says, "Use your phone." Works like a dream.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on. It's just a link. All you got to do is click it. Everything should open. So yeah, the phone is always our backup option when computers are being finicky. So glad it worked. Glad you are here.
Me too. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Why don't you give our audience just a brief background? Maybe I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner yet. A brief background, how you got involved in the paranormal, how that led to you taking photographs, and of course, how it ended up with you writing the book Ghostly Photographs, and how that all occurred.
All righty. Well, I grew up in 2 actively haunted houses. So it was something that I was kind of used to. Now, the odd thing is that everything happened almost exclusively during the day. So hearing footsteps, above me, watching a door open, a chandelier swing. After a while, it wasn't a big deal. My mom always treated it, Dad didn't really buy into it, but Mom knew it was real. And it was always the personality of the house. So it wasn't scary. It was intriguing. I mean, you're sitting in the TV room and you're watching a cat come across the room, stopping dead in front of a chair, and then slowly backing out of the room. And it's like, oh, cool. When those experiences happened, I enjoyed it. I saw a couple of apparitions when I was a teenager in one of the houses. It's the only time I've seen an apparition with my eyes. And then the beginning of 2009, I decided I wanted something new. I always found the paranormal fascinating, and I found a group to start to learn with, because it was very clear to me there's a right way and a wrong way to go about this. So, and much to my surprise, within a few months, I was capturing some really good photos. And the first year was very intense as I'm learning. And you learn to differentiate as to what's real, what's not, wrapping your brain around the fact that, wow, I really caught this. This is real.
Right.
And, learning about lens flares. So, you can start to rule those kind of things out. But I went through this huge learning curve, and I had all these photos, and they just kept happening and kept happening. It's what I was good at. I'm not an EVP person. I don't have the ear for it or the patience. You know, I can't sit through hours of that. I can sit through hours of photos, not a problem. But it's just, you know, what we enjoy doing.
Mhm.
Right.
And
Right.
it's
Mhm.
just gone from there. And I was able to go and publish a book the end of 2012 because I just needed to go and share these. They're kind of unique. I don't do anything with infrared. Everything is done with natural light or with a flash. And it's what's worked. And, you know, the technique that I use is you always take 3 shots of the exact same spot because energy changes and moves as it manifests.
Mhm.
Right.
And quite often I've caught something in all 3 shots.
That's amazing. And we're going to get an opportunity to take a look at some of these shots tonight. But I saw a posting you put up, not more than a week ago. And you've joined a paranormal group, correct?
Yes. New England Paranormal Society. They're based out of Massachusetts. They've been around for about 10 years.
Oh.
And they've
Yeah.
been wanting to expand into New England. And they were actively looking for new members. And I asked about it. And I'm delighted to go and be the co-lead for Connecticut.
Oh,
Very
nice.
nice.
Very
Oh,
cool.
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. I just want to
And
get
they
more
will,
active.
yes, and they will definitely appreciate your photographic ability and what you can capture, because I'm going to tell you, we've seen some great photographs, but Julie has a collection that just, when you get done taking a look at what we're going to look tonight, you just go, what? So this will be great. So let me pull up, let me share my screen.
Tony, I'd also say too that I think that a couple of things that she said off the bat that are extremely important for people watching is one, that if you have a passion in an area of specificity and you add aptitude to that, right? Like we always say with devices and stuff, if you're really connected to something, if you feel it, the intent is part of the process, as part of the energy, the co-resonance, it can have an impact on the success of what evidence you catch. That's one. The other thing she said that was really big was learning how to differentiate and discern between certain things by what? Education of how the process works, how it shouldn't work, and how the device works. That's huge, because that's how you can vet your own stuff with any kind of authenticity. So that's 2 huge learning points, and we just started the show, so that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And actually, she was talking about, understanding what lens flare is when it happens. Those are all crucial to understanding your equipment, how it works, what can happen, which is not necessarily paranormal, and then being able to differentiate that from something that you capture that very clearly shows paranormal. But I guarantee you, she's done this long enough that what we're going to get to see tonight is going to be fantastic. So
Yes, I'm excited.
let me share my screen. There we go. All right. I'm going to start just with the first one and go through them, Julie. And I'm going to let you talk about, I'll pull up the first one, tell us where you're at, what you were doing there, how you captured. So here's photo 1. I think I got to open it from over here. All right. There
All right,
we go.
I'm showing my full shot here. I'm at I'm in Clinton, Massachusetts, at a tunnel. Now, I'm showing the full shot, but what we want to move on to is the next picture, because that's the close-up.
Okay.
Now, it's about 12:30 at night, and I felt really uncomfortable at this location from the very beginning, and happy I was there with people that knew it. But I didn't like it. And this was basically looking out at us, making sure that we were on our way out. That's a completely empty tunnel. Everybody's outside talking for a few minutes before we go and hit our cars and do an hour-and-a-half drive back. But it's what I call my one creepy photo. I mean, depending on your point of view, they're all creepy, but I consider this a creepy photo. And there's another one. If you'll move on to the next one. Again, I wanted to show the full shot. It's a little blurry, but once I worked with it and really zoomed in, let's go to the next one and see what's hiding in there. This is how it changed and manifest from one shot to the other. Those two white streaks, they're now, whatever those were, I've now got two lights, and it's manifested into something that looks a little more human.
Sure does. I see a body shape, head, shoulders, legs.
Yeah, there was certainly something in there hoping and waiting for us to go home because it did not like us being there.
Julie, did you use a flash at all during this photo?
Yes, this was taken at night. This is done with a regular flash.
So anybody watching, if you would look closely at the figure in the center, if taken with a flash, if this was an actual person, there would be a different casted shadow behind it. If you look at the ground, it's a wider, darker shadow, almost like it's projecting an energy at its feet. Since this was taken with a flash, if this wasn't actually a human standing there, the directed shadow would be behind it.
Yes.
Not like a puddle on the ground. That's right. Pretty amazing.
And if this was actual human, you would get a white color in the eyes from reflection from the flash, and there is none.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see a little more detail that looks like a person. You know, clothing,
even those two,
or hair, or but there's nothing, none of that's there.
Even the two light things, anomalies in the front of it. There's no, it's not wet. There's nothing reflective in the tunnel whatsoever that would cause that, other than something that was self-generating its own illumination, right?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well,
excellent point.
Not only that, if that was reflections, those two bright, I'd say orbs, maybe those energy orbs that you're seeing there. If that was a reflection off of something, there would be some streaking involved in the capture of the photograph, right, Julie?
Yes.
Like naked people running through. Oh no, not that kind of streaking.
Not that kind of streaking. No.
Oh, I've had stuff close to that at other visits to this place. There's always stories. Yeah.
You know what's fascinating too? It looks like if you zoomed in on that, especially the one on the right, the bluish one, the one more blue, it almost looks like if you looked at like something under a microscope in a science lab, like, you know, like an amoeba or some kind of a microscopic organism. Like it's got stuff going on, like a cell.
Yes.
That's a great point, Ron. And that has been noticed in a lot of photographs of what they consider truly to be an orb, is that it has a cell-like structure. You can see the movement of energy within that outer line cell. And great point, because you can see that outer line cell on both of those now that I've zoomed in. And in the lighter colored one, the lighter blue, you can almost see what looks like energy swirling inside of it.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the blue, if you do a tight close-up on the previous, zoom in, the white, it'll turn blue. On the previous photo, not on that one. Go back one more photo.
That's still impressive though. Look at it.
Yeah, it is.
Because you're at a distance. Look at how bright that was from a distance.
Yes. Now, if you do a tight zoom in.
Oh yeah. Look at
Oh yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
What's even more crazy is it looks like two energies moving in together to form a mass to help almost to help the apparition form, like the energy build up.
That's a good point too. And very possible.
There's something going on there.
Yeah. Crazy. Do you think there was more than one?
What,
do you think maybe the two orbs were two different ones though? Because in the first, well, technically the second picture, to me it looks more like a beefy dog, like a demon dog, and then the second picture looks more like human form.
Yeah.
So like the two orbs were two different things.
Well, it could be in a transference process too, where the first photographs caught it before it began to form, and the last photograph it was more in the apparition formation. So who knows? But you're absolutely right there. It has changed over the course of the photographs.
I have a really weird theory that I'm going to run with here. Is this in a Native American location, Julie? By any chance?
I'm not. I'm honestly not sure, but it's Clinton, Massachusetts, so it's very possible.
Because when you take Audra's theory, and you combine it with something morphing into something else, you can almost imagine it might be like a Native American shapeshifter, kind of like Skinwalker Ranch.
That's a possibility too.
Yeah, that's a good possibility.
It is.
You know, quite often these just bring up more questions than answers.
I know.
Most of the time, that's exactly what happens.
Then we go out and search for those answers.
Yes, we do.
That's really
All right,
cool.
let's bring
All
back
Yeah.
up that
All right.
screen.
Would you like to move on to the next group, Tony?
Yep. All right. So here's photo 1.
Right. This is a
Oh, wow.
sequence of 3. These are taken at 11:30 in the morning. I'm in Gettysburg, and I have got, well, an anomaly, whatever you want to call it. It's not a true apparition, but we're going to go through the 3. And what I love about these is you can see on that pole, you can see sunlight and you can see shadow. And
Right.
we have direct sunlight on these. So if you would go through the 3 one at a time, because it changes and moves.
Oh yeah.
Where it's much fuller now, and it even wraps a little bit around that pole.
Around, yeah.
Looks like it got lower too. Like it went down a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, it
moves
moved.
in all 3 shots. And there's even a little bit of color in it.
I was about to
And
say
it makes
that.
me wonder, is there moisture in it? Is that a little bit of a rainbow effect? I don't know, but I just knew something was up on that porch railing, and I had a lovely chat with it. And then to my, surprise and, excitement, I had 3 really, really unique photos out of this.
Yes.
But
So
I like to encourage people to go during the day. I've gotten some of my best photos at 10, 10:30, 11,
Wow.
11:30 in the morning.
So let me help here a little bit for those of you that are watching. So Julie's pointing this out, and this is actually a huge picture when it comes to paranormal captures, because a lot of people will say, "Hey, you're in Gettysburg. It's 11:30 in the morning. What if it's a fog?" Well, let me show you something. You've got your mortared rock behind it. You've got your window behind it. You've got your sealed wood porch railing and the sealed wood porch post. In order for fog to form at this height, there has to be a moisture wicking surface that would cause the heat from the sun to cause that moisture wicking surface to form a fog. And a fog wouldn't be so smoothly edged as this would be. There's nothing on this porch here, no matter what time of day it is, that would cause this kind of fogging on this porch. There's nothing there that would be moisture wicking enough to cause a fog of that density and that size. And a fog would not have the smooth edges. And what I notice about this one, if you look really close, you have an arm and a shoulder and a head, and it almost looks like they're wrapping their arm around the post.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Yep. Someone holding the
I
pole.
can see that too.
Stripper ghost.
It's a stripper ghost.
It's a stripper.
It's open pole night in Gettysburg. Open pole night.
But I just wanted
That's
to point out that
fascinating.
there's nothing in this picture that would cause enough moisture wicking to cause a fog to form on this balcony.
That's brilliant,
That's
Chris.
an
because
awesome.
What you're
And the
determining
fact
by
that I
saying
got
that
it
is
in
that
3 different shots. That's what puts the real
Mhm.
strength behind the photos.
yeah, and plus the knowledge of what he shared too. Also, it's not happening because of the environment; it's happening in the environment.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, that was a great,
That's great.
great point, Chris. And
Brilliant.
and yeah,
Brilliant.
it does look like somebody maybe looking over the rail, hanging on the pole. But it, like you said, it moved, it shifted, it changed form, it lowered itself, and you've got bright sunlight out. Normally, with bright sunlight, fog literally will disperse relatively quickly, and it does not look like it's overly cloudy here. So that
Mhm.
also entices the fact of what we're looking at.
Well, and
Yeah.
you can tell it was a sunny day because it's very clear on that pole where there is sunlight and there is shadow from the
Right.
roof.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That is.
All right, so that takes us on to the next one. I love this one. This one's great. Here it is.
Now, part of this one is I'm also going to show you a trick. This one looks a little bit dark. So let's go on to the next one. I'll show you an easy trick when you get a dark photo like this.
Black and white.
Black and white.
Turn it to black and white. And all of a sudden you can see that there is a woman, or at least the upper half of her, and she's looking down on this bed. I'm at the Slater Mill, just outside of Providence, Rhode Island. And when I was at this, I had such a strong desire to curl up in that bed in a fetal position.
Huh.
And
Wow.
to me, it looks like you've got someone looking down on that bed. So from what from what I felt, my belief is that there is either a very sick or even possibly a dying child in that bed, and she is watching over it because it was so strong. I really wanted to just get in there and curl up, but I didn't feel like getting thrown out either. So I came home, I found the picture, and how about that? But yeah, this is a super easy way when a photo's dark. It's amazing how
Yeah.
many details will pop.
What's even more interesting to me in that shadow figure that you point out, Julie, is there's actually a double casted shadow from the window coming from the hallway.
Right.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
So the shadow being casted from the window in the hallway is actually casting a shadow onto the shadow figure that you caught, which pulls away from the fact that it's a double exposure of somebody standing in the doorway. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a shadow casted on it. It would be completely blacked out. So you've got a
Correct.
double shadow there, and the one shadow's directly coming from the window in the hallway. You can see it. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Crazy.
They're
Oh, wow.
asking what the cross is on the bed.
Oh, now that, all right. What that actually is, it's a rope bed, and that's what you use to tighten
tighten
the
it.
ropes.
Mhm.
Ah,
Heard
gotcha.
about, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Sleeping tight meant that you would go and take this key and you would use it to go and twist and tighten the ropes that are underneath of the mattress.
That makes
That's
perfect
what that
sense.
is.
Very cool.
Yeah.
They still should have been okay with bed bugs, though, I think.
Well, yeah. They looked for bed bugs. I just knew about the key, so.
Gotta draw a line somewhere. That's fantastic, and what a good educational point too for photographs. I think a lot of paranormal people, not everybody, but I think there's a majority of us who will take pictures sometimes at locations, and it's kind of like an extra thing that we do on top of all the other gadgets and stuff we run. But when your primary focus is capturing these images, I mean, your process is so thought out, and you're so aware of the moment every time you have to explain the moment. I think that's important. That shows when you actually take a deep dive into something as an area of specificity, how you're supposed to do it. You have to have that much awareness of what's going on.
That's an excellent point. And yeah, she is great at that. I've heard her on multiple occasions go through photographs that she's captured, and she's very good at discerning what was going on in the environment, what was happening, what she feels she's seeing. So yeah, just fantastic. Just fantastic.
The photo that
All right.
Tony's pulled up, now there's nothing in here. And again, having one without will strengthen the one with, helping to go and determine that's not a spot in the wall, what's going on. But yeah, we got something going on in the next one.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
That's a full body apparition that I caught in Gettysburg. I'm in the Springbrook Tavern downstairs.
I knew it.
And if you can
Favorite.
scroll up toward more of the top of it, you can go and see. There we go. We can get more of her head in it. There we go. But this is from this building, 1776. It's one of the oldest buildings still surviving in Gettysburg. It's an excellent restaurant. But you can
Yes.
see the white kerchief on the girl's shoulders. Excuse me. You can see upper torso. The legs really aren't there, but that's normally what happens, with full bodies. And her face is on the left because I'm working in a low light. That's why you're getting that orange tone. This again is taken about 10:30 in the morning. And you see a little bit of the length of there's some movement. So during my
Yes.
my exposure time, she was moving.
Yeah, quite quickly
Yeah, that I
because
can
it elongated. You can see her hair, which, elongated out of the frame. You get a double sense of whatever was on the back of her outfit because it's here and then you see it again. So yeah, she was definitely moving at probably a pretty good rate.
Yeah, and another thing to point out too. Go ahead, Julie.
I believe it's somebody younger too. The Dobbins, but when they were married, they were both widows and they had 15 children between them.
Wow.
And any older girl would never be caught without a hat.
No.
So this is why I'm thinking it's somebody who's kind of a late teens, that type of thing that could, at least get away at some point with that. But I really love the kerchief, which is indicative of clothing of the, 1770s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time.
Another thing to point out with the photo too is a lot of people look at this and go, is there a possibility it's a double exposure during movement? But no, in a double exposure during movement, you'll still get a shadow cast. So you've got a light here and you've got the light coming in from the opposite side. And this does not cast one shadow at all anywhere on the table, on the floor, on the wall, up near the flag. It does not cast a shadow at all. So this is definitely paranormal. Without a doubt. That is fantastic.
It's a great capture. It's a great capture.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh.
All right.
All right, here's a crazy one. This was
I agree
taken
already.
about 6 p.m. and I'm at the Tenney Gatehouse in Methuen, Massachusetts. And I'm at the top of stairs shooting down. And there was just something about this that I was so drawn to shoot down the stairs. And this pops into my photo. And you can see the body density is kind of off on this apparition. I don't really know what's up with that crazy pink head, but this is what walked into my photo. And this is the first of 2. Yeah.
That's really cool.
That same apparition basically moved around the corner. And this organ that it's interacting with came in the building 2 months prior to me taking the photo. The Teddy family had lived in this house while their new house, Great Court Castle, was being built in the back. Well, in the 1970s, it burned to the ground. And this organ and 2 other things were all that survived from the fire. It was given to a caretaker who then donated it to this house, which is their local historical society. And I really believe this is Mrs. Fanny Tenney, and she is interacting because whether she's got a kerchief in her hand or whether she was wearing a glove, but where there's white, there's movement of her hand on the keyboard of the organ.
Yeah.
That shadow figure is crazy. I wanted to, when I caught this, I wanted to ask a question too from the previous photo because of the pink on the carpet is almost a spot on swatch match for the pink spot in the other one, but there's no carpet in this picture. Really, it's not, you don't see any carpet at all. So this is just a question now, theoretically, if it's a visual apparition and if you take into account that like electrons can have wave or particle properties, could this be some kind of a visual distortion where it picked up that color in the environment through manifestation because it's not present in that area, but it is present in the environment?
I don't think so because
that's fascinating.
I'm dealing with only available light. It's October. It's about 6 o'clock. Again, that's why you've got the orange hue. I use my flash when I need to, but I would rather deal with natural light if at all possible. Now, the one thing is maybe it's something, some crazy take on a hat because the Tenneys, they made all of their money because Mr. Tenney owned a hat factory. And Mrs. Tenney was petite, under 5 feet, and was known to wear very large, elaborate hats. to go and, make her stature go and look a little bit bigger. So
I was actually going to say, you could almost see, if you look closer, it looks like the brim of a pink hat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the fact that she just said she was under 5 feet, that's probably a 6.5 or 7 foot door, which would put her probably right about 5 or under. So that matches.
Under 5,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Under 5,
right.
okay.
So your standard height of a regular sized door is 6 foot 8 inches.
Okay.
And if you go back into the 1700s, whenever this house was built, your tallest door would have been 6 foot 2 inches. So yeah, that would have put her 5 foot or less with the hat.
Right.
5.5. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
What's amazing about both of these pictures is the shadow figure that you caught during the motion. Every aspect of the room is crystal clear.
yes.
So this also eliminates double exposure, because double exposure,
Everything.
the edge of the organ would have been, kind of muffled and, distorted a little bit. Everything in this area is crystal clear. You can almost pick out the patterns in the carpet, but the
Yes,
edging of
right.
the shadow figure is not clear at all. God, that is fantastic.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually got something cooler coming up after this.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. All right, let's move on. And this one I love.
Now, this was taken the same night at about 7:30. I'm on the second floor. And in the window, we have a reflection. Now, there's plexiglass over the window. It's a historic house. They can't do a whole lot of modifications, for heat and all that. And you can see that there's a man there. He has an arm raised. You can see where his head is. You can make out the folds in his shirt. It's heavily gusseted, as it would have been in the mid 1800s for a workman. There's a pretty clean line where you can see his shirt is tucked into his pants.
Yeah.
You can almost see his suspenders there too.
Ear.
Yep.
You already caught that. They show up much better in the next photo.
Yeah.
Chris catches everything.
All right, that's just to give you an idea of the full shot. But if you want to go to the next one, you should. Yeah, that should be or you can just zoom in on this one. And in the second shot, you can see that he has moved.
Yeah, his arm's not up anymore.
Exactly. And those suspenders that you already caught, they're much easier to see in this one. You can even see a short ponytail.
Yeah.
You can
You can
even
actually
make out the tab for the suspenders.
I was just going to say that. You can see the leather tab that connects the button to his waistline.
Right.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Well, and that puts this right in the time period of clothing that would have been worn. That just takes the validity of this photo, sends it through the roof, because no one dresses like that anymore.
Tony, zoom in really close at the top right pane.
Okay.
So by trade, I'm a window and door guy. So this is hand-blown glass.
Correct.
And what I want to point out is this is the original glass of the building. This is what the distortion of the glass would have looked like back then when they hand blew it from sand to make these panes. And the reason why it looks this way is people think that glass is a solid surface. Glass is actually a liquefied surface that's always in a constant state of movement. And that's what causes this distortion in this glass. And the reason I point that out is if you look at the edging of his shoulder, this picture, he is not on the exterior of that glass. You can actually see the glass behind his shoulder. So I wouldn't call this a reflection. I would almost say that you caught an apparition standing in front of the glass. You can see the glass behind him. That is fantastic.
You already caught something. If you take a look, you can see the red frame and you can see some of his shirt. There's plexiglass on the window. And the reflection is on the plexiglass, not the glass.
Oh, on the red portion, yeah.
You're right. Yes.
Zoom in and look at the frame.
Yeah.
God, I took the difficult route.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can see the distortions in the Yeah, you can see the distortions in the bottom pane coming behind his shirt too. Tony, scroll up. The other direction.
You know what?
back
It
down.
probably bears pointing out too for the nothing is ever paranormal minded people. That is not in any way, shape, or form a match for the headless mannequin that is in front of the window to the side.
No.
It is not.
Not at all.
It is
Not
not.
at
Let me
all.
say this again in the most scientific way I can say it. It is not.
That is
And I
fantastic.
don't think anyone will argue with you, Ron. Good catch.
Yeah, because if you look really
fantastic.
close, the suspenders wouldn't go with the dress anyway.
No, they
That's
clap.
right.
No, but you know, people go, "Oh, well, it's probably the mannequins." Right? No, it's not. You can see there's so
Oh
much
yeah, clearly.
differentiating in detail between the two. It's not even close.
Yeah,
That is
that's an
unique figure.
awesome capture.
So, Julie, I have to compliment you right now. The texturing and the stuff that you catch behind what you're catching does everything 100% to prove these pictures for you are paranormal. These pictures are phenomenal. You as a photographer alone, take away the paranormal part of it, are fantastic. This is fantastic work.
Thank
It
you.
I
is.
just wanted to point that out.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
There's some amazing captures here. I mean, that's something you don't pick up very often. And even if you would, the fact that she has it so in focus, so clear, so discernible to what you're looking at, that's rare. So again, Julie, congratulations, because this is not your typical captures. These are fantastic.
Head. There's like a big face behind.
Audra just pointed something out. If you look in that big bottom pane, there almost appears to be a second apparition standing behind him.
But like magnified, like it's like enlarged. There's
Here?
an eye there.
Yeah, there's like a mist behind him.
There's an eye.
Well,
Yeah,
there
I
is
see
an
the
agent
eye.
on the glass, so that's been
I
kind
saw
of
that. Yeah.
we've debated that one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
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 But there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that you caught an apparition of, not to be mean, a very large man in suspenders.
I thought that too.
That's not mean.
He is kind of big.
Well, his pants are up, so he's fine.
And suspenders.
Now there's one more.
yeah,
just
that's
to follow it up
fantastic.
because we have one more change on this. We'll just touch on that one briefly.
Sure.
That's my third photo. If you want to zoom in on that, that's
He's
all
gone.
that's left. He's just a point of light. He's pure spirit energy at this point. And if you zoom in tight on it, you're going to see the rays coming off of it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's like he went zoop.
Yeah.
That's
Green
my
and
third
blue.
shot.
Yeah.
And those are what, seconds apart, those photos?
Yes, it's they're individual clicks on the camera, but they're as quickly as the camera will take them.
So seconds
So yeah,
seconds
we're talking
apart.
about
That
2-3 seconds apart.
yeah, that's like intensifying the slam dunk that it already is.
That's really cool.
That is.
That's
So,
awesome.
Julie, do you have any kind of sensitive, empathic? God, I
Yes.
can't speak. I must be hungry like Tony. Do you sense any of these before you take the photos?
I get a feeling. I've had a feeling, and if anything catches my attention in just the tiniest bit, I take pictures. And it's kind of that sort of a thing. Whatever draws my attention, you just follow your gut, throw logic out the window, and I take a lot of photos. And thank goodness for digital, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason I asked that question is because nobody's this lucky. This is fantastic. You've got to have some kind of
Connection.
connection to these photos that you're capturing. That mean that one is I think that's the best apparition photo I've ever seen so far.
Thank you.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that's some great stuff. No
Wow.
doubt about it.
Well, I've got some crazy ones that happen with well, let's just keep moving on. We'll kind of show about more changes. I'd love to hear your input on this one. Very few people have seen these. All right. This is the photo of what we were shooting. We're at the Mount Washington Hotel up in the Princess Room. And this is a regular shot. Now let's go to the next one. You can see what happened.
Oh, wow.
I would love your feedback on this. I've only had this happen a couple of times, but everything is
I would say
distorted.
it's a visual distortion. I would say that there's some kind of energy manipulation that, again, to go back to what I was saying before, light is an energy that is the fastest traveling of, and something distorted it either through movement or manifestation. And you're seeing, I guess, the particles, you're seeing it elongated, you're seeing it stretched out or strewn across with
Like a
it's like they're
bridge.
leaving tails. Yeah, that's crazy. That's some kind of energy manipulation, I would say, that has to do with the maybe the bending or manipulation of the light.
Oh, definitely bending of the light. I mean, even the way the white light at the very end, the lip even bends back.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's the strangest thing about it is that if you focus on individual dots within the laser grid that are appearing in the photo,
It's forming.
well, they're not all consistent in the
No.
light movement. So let's say it was a slow shutter speed underneath low light and she moved her camera. Every one of those
Would be the same.
be streaked. They're not all streaked.
Well, they're not all going the same direction either, and that's what's.
Yeah, two good
So-
points. That's
So
true.
when
the
you
curvature,
snap, when you snap a photo and you catch movement of light because you've moved the camera during the snapping of the photo, everything will move the same direction. Some of these are changing direction, and they're not
Well, that
changing the
one's-
same direction. They're going two different. Some look like fish hooks. Some look like a bent
Right.
Shepherd's hook.
shepherd's hook. None of them are the same. And then if you look at the REM pod light, it's a squiggly line.
Yeah.
Well, I caught
That's a
this
good
twice,
point.
so we have another example to look at too.
and Chris, also look at the fact that behind where all these things are happening, the solid object matter, we're talking about the manipulation or effects of
Right.
light being distorted. The solid objects behind it, the carpet itself, the
Hasn't
radiator,
changed.
the window, the pattern on the drapes are unaffected. So if it was anything that was malfunction or fault of the camera, it would not just be relegated to the light.
Yes.
Right. Good
So
point.
here's the second capture during that same session. So here's everything normal, and then we'll move on to what happened, and more is happening in this one.
Whoa.
That's the shot right after it.
And those four
The room
shots were
darkened, the
consecutive.
colors changed.
And those were in succession, Julie?
Yes, they were.
Huh.
How far apart were these picture? Just out of curiosity.
Probably 2 seconds. I mean, as quickly as the camera, allows it. I'm working with the room light. There's no flash. So
And,
a second,
and then
2 seconds tops.
then you have the same effect where they're in different patterns. And like Ron pointed out, so everybody watching now, if you look at the design on the curtain, the material on the curtain, the design on the curtain hasn't moved.
No.
The edging of the bars on the radiator hasn't moved. Ron brought out a very good point. I mean, there's nothing. The detail in the trim and the post on the wall will tell the story. Nothing is shifted. This is fantastic.
That's one of the theories.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was going to say it's almost the effect of some people think that spirits manipulate electronic objects and draw their energy away from it in order to manifest. Maybe this is a perfect example of something that was really strong pulling some energy.
Yeah, and one of the things that's theorized that how spirits can pop in and out of wherever is the fact that since light is an energy and it is the fastest moving, is that if whatever is moving through this is very likely moving at that same speed or moving at the speed of light, and it's having an effect on the visibility of the light that we're able to perceive through whatever the devices are, because that's not in any way normal when, again, the background, which is lit, is completely unaffected. All the physical matter in the room is completely in focus.
Right. And right at the level where that window frame is seen, there are no dots around that disturbed. They're not showing the streak of light. They are perfectly round dots. And
So-
that is what really fascinates me because
Right.
Yeah.
So how many hauntings are reported at this location, Julie? Do you know?
Well, quite a few. It's the Mount Washington Hotel up in New Hampshire, and this is the Princess Room, which is known to be the most active in the building. It's a massive, gorgeous old hotel.
I actually just had a thought that it's just a theory, but we've done private investigations. Tony, you've been involved with these where we've actually found doorways where spirits can come and go as they please and pass through. I'm almost wondering if this might be a portal or a doorway where the energy comes to a bridge, like Audra said.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge.
that is a
I
great
knew I got that
possibility.
idea from somewhere. But for that amount of energy to move that light and bend it the way it's bending it, that can't be just one.
Right. I've wondered if there's more going on there. Is this maybe even got an interdimensional aspect? I mean, you can see how far it pulls, the green dot lights. But if you move a little more toward the bottom of the picture, that white light, it's just a flashlight. If you look at how far it pulls that.
So wild.
Looks like a river.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
And this photo is darker. There's also kind of a haze over it. It's, it kind of browns out or grays out a little bit too. The whole photo does. As something really sweeps into this one.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Just some fascinating captures, though. Just incredible.
Yeah. If you want to get the would-be skeptic to retire, hand them that and a glass of wine and say good luck.
No shit.
I like that.
Yeah.
Explain this one, bucko.
Yeah, that's
All right.
fascinating. The manipulation of the light in that picture, the different lights, that's crazy.
Well, here's what's even more fascinating. Tony, go back to the second picture.
Yeah, that one.
It ends.
Look at the bottom where it just stops and folds backwards like a carpet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And look at it. Almost looks the orange almost looks like embers.
It does.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing how much
crazy.
is
And
pulled across the room.
That is insane. You couldn't
Yeah.
replicate that twice if you tried.
I was simply sitting in a chair and I must have popped off, right in a row, 20 or 30 photos. And when I look back at them, I had 2 captures.
Wow.
Yeah, whatever's happening there is happening completely independent of the actual physical environment. Completely.
Yes. That's
Yep.
insane the way that folds back like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts because that's just, how is that even possible? I mean, the whole thing just kind of ends and starts to bend back at that point.
yeah,
Even if you took your camera and you went like this and went like this really quick and snapped a photo, you could not get the shutter speed fast enough to capture both streaking of
Both movements.
both movements at the same time in one frame of the picture. There's no possible way.
Right. Without effing up the fireplace.
On the rug,
Right.
it's still clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Ron and Julie just said, everything else is perfectly clear. That's insane.
yeah, that is. All right. Well, I just want to make a statement for anybody that happens to be listening on kgradb.com. We only have about a minute before they're going to switch over to their next show. We are going to continue because I want to make sure we can get through the rest of Julie's photographs. So if you're listening on kgradb.com, if you want to go on to their next show, please feel free. If you'd like to continue watching what we're going through, move over to their Facebook or YouTube channel. Thank you. All right, let's move to the next one. Oh, this one's great.
I've actually caught some UFO photos, and I've got a series of 3. I was staying at Rose Island in Newport, and again, it's about 9:30 in the morning, and I'm shooting just the scenery. Now, I never see any of this with my eyes. I find everything later on in the photographs. But as you go through these photos, you're going to see how this large ship moves. And the photos are 3 seconds apart. I even went back and took a look at it, wanting to go and see how much movement. And it's pretty slow moving. And when you look at the scale of it next to the bridge,
It's big.
it's big.
Wow.
I've got some friends that are pilots that I've had them take a look at it and say, what do you think? And it's like, I got no answer for you.
There looks like a bit of a motion trail there too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
We're almost like a propulsion trail.
Well, I was thinking that too, but I know, obviously, if it is truly something in the UFO phenomena, they don't use any type of engine that, gives off smoke or exhaust, or because they're, light years ahead of us. But it's curious. And what the heck is it?
No, but it could cause a distortion in the atmosphere depending on what
True.
type of conditions that you're looking at there too.
Great
Right.
point, Chris. Yeah, that is possible.
Well,
And it's
if you wanna
hanging.
go
It's
down
hanging in
to-
place.
Well, if you want to go down to the water level and zoom in,
No shadow.
It looks like I come out of the water.
that white spot is there on all 3 photos.
So it might be a
that's
USO.
what I'm wondering too.
And then
Right,
identified.
unidentified submerged object. That's a USO. They call that.
Yeah. This is very similar to the stuff that they've caught off of Catalina Island in
Yeah.
California.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
that is interesting. Let's take a look at one of the other ones.
Which would also explain that little distortion behind it. It could be a mist coming off of as it exits the water at such a great speed. It's dragging the moisture with it.
It could
Yeah.
very well be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just be, moisture left on it as it's leaving, moving through the atmosphere.
So, Julie, what are your thoughts on that white mist? Do you think it jetted out of the water?
That's kind of my feeling. If you look at the angle, if you look at the trajectory on it, for something that large, now it's obviously going up. And where could it have been that nobody would have seen it? I mean, that's a large ship.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and to Chris's point about the moisture vapor behind it, if that spot is still coming out of the water when it's that high in the air, let's calculate how fast that thing is moving, which means it could easily be dropping water droplets, vapors off of it in the background to create that tail if that splash residue is still in the air.
But wouldn't it create some kind of a movement in the water itself, some kind of ripple effect, which I'm not seeing? I don't know. I'm not.
No, that's
that
a very
good
good
at
question. I mean,
photos.
there's
It
a
is.
lot of things here that kind of defy explanation.
Well, and if you actually watch some of the documentaries that they've talked about, that I've seen a few on the Catalina Island USOs, like Ron pointed out the USOs, the Catalina Island USO, some of the fishermen and some of the boating people that have seen the actual USOs coming up out of the water reported that there was no disturbance of the water. There was a slight mist. All they
Ah.
saw, and they saw the projectile
Okay.
coming out.
But
Okay.
that is an excellent point, Lourdes, because
Yep.
just by our own physics for the 3D world, you would expect
Yeah.
a plunge of ripples to be going
Would.
across
Right.
that area.
Isn't that the irony though too? Because for something like that to exist, to not make any noise that she heard, it wasn't visible to her at the time, and it's pretty much hanging there long enough. If it was moving at a rapid speed, it would be out of the picture at least by the second or third shot. So it's already
Correct.
just like when we talk about paranormal stuff, it's already not following the laws of physics as we know it in our realm. And if it's interdimensional, it probably does not have to. We've talked about that before. Aerodynamics and aeronautics would suggest that a bee can't fly because of the body mass is to the wingspan. But there
Well, and if
that's
anybody
within our laws. That thing is defying something.
Yeah. And if anybody watching wants to check out the Catalina USO reports, you can look it up online. There's quite a few of them, actually. The only reason that people on boats and sailors and stuff like that, and guys in the Navy on Navy ships were actually, some of these guys that testified on the documentaries were actual really high-ranking naval officers that saw this stuff. The only reason that they knew it was taking place is they actually saw the lights coming from under the water. But when the USO actually left the surface of the water, they said it was a blur. It was a streak. There was no ripple in the water. There was a slight mist, and then all of a sudden it was up in the air and it was gone. But the only reason they realized it was there is because they saw the lights coming from below the surface of the water before it actually broke the surface and took off. It's actually quite an interesting. It's actually quite an interesting documentary.
It's really cool.
Well, those were fantastic.
Yes, they
I'm
were.
glad you enjoyed them.
Those were great. Julie, tell people where they can get your book if they're interested in reading it, seeing other pictures. We only covered a small portion of it. I know that there's plenty more in there. So let them know where they can purchase that.
Well, you can start with my website, which is ghostlyphotographs.com. I have a few of the photos we've seen tonight there and more. I've got a sample chapter for the book, and your best bet is to go on Amazon, whether you like it in print or whether you like it as an ebook. I mean, the nice thing about the ebook is that, you're going to get nice backlit photos, and that's where these really go and look the best. So it's whatever your preference is. But definitely check out the website. It talks a little bit more about me, my background, my experience, all of that. And it's also a way, if you want to contact me, you want to send me an email, you can do it from there too.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Julie, thank
why
you
wouldn't
for
you
taking
after
that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then why wouldn't you after that? That's just an appetizer to a main course that's in a book that you can get somewhere and on a website. Well, why wouldn't you? That was really not even close to pedestrian level stuff. That was all just
awesome.
staggering. Those photos. That's fantastic.
Thank you. It's been quite a journey with getting photos like that. From the beginning, it took quite a while to wrap my brain around it and just keep appreciating what I do. And it keeps you driven. You want to go out and see what happens next.
Yep.
True.
You want more and more and more.
Yeah. It's addictive.
More.
It's
I got a
addictive
feeling
and
there's going to be more. There's a second book coming, right?
I'm kind of debating whether I want to take the first book and do a complete revision on it or whether I do a second book. But the photos keep coming. So a second book is the most realistic thing, honestly.
Yeah. That's amazing, though. That's just absolutely amazing. And like Ron said, that's not pedestrian level captures. I mean, those are above and beyond. And when you can get the photograph, see everything that's in it, when you can take the clothes they're wearing and the suspenders and the buckles and hooks that are keeping them up and together and put it into a time period that fits a location that you're in. I mean, that takes it just above and beyond just, oh, what's this? That takes it to, oh my gosh, not what is this? We know what it is, but how do we capture this? Because this is good stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, that's really
wow. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Ron. Go ahead.
No, I was done. Actually, I was just tagging on what you said. It's really good. It's one of the reasons, but now I'll talk because I got a minute. It's one of the reasons why I love. It's Thanksgiving week, right? So here you go. This is another reason why I'm thankful, because when you do paranormal research, you're so engrossed in what you do. I know what I do. I know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what we do. I know that stuff. But when people like Julie come on and share this kind of stuff, it lets you know not only what other people are doing, but when you talk about, oh, we're trying to move this field forward, these are the people that are right there in unison and lockstep with you, moving it forward, whether you know they're there or not. And that is the type of stuff that does it. That's fantastic evidence.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And great job pointing out the fact of trying to move the field forward, because we have sat stagnant for quite a while. And yes, it is people like Julie capturing these things. And, let's just hope one day science can take all of the evidence that's being captured and someday catch up and say, okay, hey, I think we understand.
Oh, science. Remember, people, science is not one guy. Like sex ed wasn't one guy in school either who was really lucky. That's not how it works. Science works behind this stuff. I used to think that, by the way. I wanted to meet that guy. But the point is, there are people in science who are fully behind this stuff, and there are people who are not. But the thing is that, like, I've said this, the paranormal investigators, I think, are leading science with the consistency and reliability of data across the boards. This level of evidence and at the abundance that she's getting it, that's, if you have to have an appreciation as an investigator that someone's doing this stuff in the same field that you're in, because everybody benefits from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I do enjoy sharing these and just getting more feedback and your comments. And, where you'll kind of pick out things where I've looked at these so many times. You'll see something that I haven't noticed yet, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, and Mr. Allgood is very good at pulling apart things out of a photograph that most of us don't even see, and that's, of course, his background in law enforcement. But he definitely has talents. Not only the fact that he can take a building and tell you exactly what materials are there and whether they have the ability to produce fog or not. I would have never known that in a million years.
Right? I agree. When he was saying that stuff too, I went, I got to watch more home improvement shows.
I agree with that.
Holy God, he had me at Spackle.
It's Spackle. That's hilarious.
All right. Well, I want to thank. That was great. I want to thank our entire audience. Without you guys, there would be no reason for us to even continue. So we appreciate you tuning in every week to watch. I want to thank Julie for taking the time, putting together the photos, sending them over, coming on to explain and share some of these fantastic captures. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to KGRA, to Bill Skywatcher for putting this program out for us each and every week and doing such a great job at it. So thank you.
Yep.
And then lastly, Chris and or Audra, would you like to give the closer?
You're on a roll. I'll keep going.
I'm on a roll. Well, it's Thanksgiving week, everybody. And the most important thing is not that we just show you evidence, is that you spend time with family. We've all been through a lot for the last year or two with this pandemic. And the one thing that we've lost is touch with those that we love. So make sure that you take this week, spend time with those that you love, make sure you travel safe and stay thankful. But if you have a chance to go out and do some investigation and catch something like Julie caught this weekend, make sure you stay haunted while you're doing it. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
God bless.